Hello, in this video, I would like to explore the moral link between cerebral palsy, medical innovation, and insurance. Now, in order to do this, I will speak in somewhat hypothetical terms. If we would think of a situation in which a medical device company developed a product or service being a therapy, and that product or service was purported to greatly help people with cerebral palsy, but the service was not yet truly vetted or trusted by insurance companies. In such a situation, people may feel the urge to try to pay out of pocket for such a product or service. Now, this in itself presents no moral dilemma. The moral dilemma comes in when we think a little bit deeper about the implications of having to pay out of pocket for a medical treatment, and the moral implications of this come into play when people of different economic conditions would, in a sense, suffer or benefit from the treatment or lack of treatment that they could financially afford. Now, the question becomes, if a family is financially strapped, but yet they truly believe that a medical treatment would help their loved one, do they have a moral obligation to maintain their financial stability, or do they have a moral obligation to try to produce the best medical outcome for their loved one, even if the treatment is not fully vetted by the insurers that are supposed to pay for such treatments? Now, it is difficult for insurance companies to be willing to pay for treatments surrounding cerebral palsy. I know from my experience with trying to get Botox, insurance companies require a lot of paperwork to ensure that the Botox will be somewhat effective, as they view Botox as somewhat experimental for the treatment of spastic cerebral palsy. Now, this just goes to show that even a stalwart medical treatment for cerebral palsy, that is Botox, does suffer in terms of how insurers view this treatment. So, if even Botox suffers from a lack of insurer credibility, then we can apply this logic to say that future treatments or services may suffer the same fate. It may be difficult for these future products and services, however breakthrough they may be, to attain the trust of the insurance companies. And therefore, it may be difficult for loved ones to not have to pay out of pocket for these treatments, especially in the short term. In the long term, these treatments may become a staple of cerebral palsy treatments and thus get insurance backing. But in the short run, at least, there is a true moral dilemma in terms of how loved ones of people with cerebral palsy handle their financial situation in regards to trying to attain the best medical outcome for that loved one. Now, I think there is a way to somewhat alleviate this moral dilemma, and that is for the government to come up with a way to incentivize insurance companies to cover treatments which are seen as more experimental. I can attest from my experience that I am forever disheartened at the pace of progress towards the treatment of cerebral palsy. So, any treatment that will come out in the future will be deemed experimental, and it is best for the government and regulators to incentivize insurance companies to better handle things that they view in an experimental light, for that is the only way, only practical way, only moral way that these treatments can be given to the people most affected and most in need.